This lady's asked me about, or I guess it's a female, asked me about Cushing's, where you have a hyperstimulation of the cortical steroids in the adrenal glands. And it can also be the pituitary that's hyperstimulating the adrenal glands. But if you notice, a lot of the symptoms also are parathyroid symptoms. So if you start looking at Cushing's, you'll find that it is the endocrine glands that are giving you these problems, no question. So when something is hyperstimulating or hypostimulating, which if you look at some of the symptoms, it means that it's hypostimulating, if you will. It's shutting down, if you will, the parathyroid gland. And I'll say that most of the symptoms are not hypersymptoms. Most of the symptoms are hyposymptoms, also involving the medulla of the adrenal glands and neurotransmitters, why the fatigue. If you start looking at the symptoms and understanding the different steroids, the different neurotransmitters, you'll start seeing that it encases a lot of the endocrine glands. So more pituitary based. But if you're having trouble with the pituitary, what is the pituitary made from? Just a bunch of cells, that's correct. And where you find cells, what else do you find? The two fluids that handle the health of those cells. So when you have something that's hyperstimulating tissue, it's either a chemical ingestion of, probably not a neurotoxin, because a neurotoxin has a tendency to suppress the endocrine glands. So it could be heavy metals, it could be just the lymph system, which is not moving well in the head area. Almost everybody has the adrenals anyway, so that's a given. Especially when you see the cortisols, it's not hyperstimulating cortisol, it's under, so that's why you see the diabetes type 2. Health of all the cells of the human body, whether it's the adrenals, the pituitary, the parathyroid, or into the organs of the liver, the kidneys, is always a cellular thinking. You have to always think cellular. And this whole process I've been bringing you guys along is to think cellular and the two fluids. I just had a lovely osteopath in here. She was also an ophthalmologist. I couldn't believe that. A very lovely gal. And just loves this level of healing. And that's what we need to see more. More osteopaths becoming more osteopathic than allopathic. And this ego of wanting to become allopathic is going to soon show itself to not be as worthy as you think, because this is not the field you want to be in. You want to be in the healing, restoration, rebuilding, genetic remembering cell. You want to be in regeneration. You want to know the causative factors. And that's what I'm working with you guys on, and you're all doing such a good job, and I appreciate all these great things. So, when you have Cushing's, when you have MS, focus on the cells and the two fluids. Whether something's hypo or hyper, you're going to go the same direction. If there is a hypersensitivity to something or hyperstimulation, but if you read the symptoms, you find more hypo in 90% of the symptoms of Cushing's. So you're going to get into the cell and make the cell healthy again. Even though there's some genetic thinking problems in cells, okay. Well, you're going to remember those cells. You're going to give them new memories. You're going to power them up, introduce cells to a new level of functionability. And how do you do that? You're going to introduce them to higher consciousness. You're going to introduce them, just like you grow, into more truth. And truth, in terms of the human body, is raw fruits. We're frugivores. You can add raw vegetables, okay. This is the truth. And truth carries with it consciousness. We'll take a look at what is plants. Plants have a consciousness. All things are pieces of the whole consciousness. These are states of consciousness. Everything is conscious at one level or another. And merging consciousnesses together makes more strength and power. It's neat because, let's say you're a carpenter and someone hires you to come into their house and do work. Well, that's what you're doing with the plants. This plant is a liver plant. We take and hire, basically, this plant to come in and fix our liver. And that's how we do the herbs. We use them for their specialty and what they're here for. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because if we look at our repertoire of tools that we need to help ourselves, we don't have many. So this is why. But we don't need many. I have a bleeding formula. That formula stops internal bleeding. So she can use that and strengthen her capillaries at the same time with working on the parathyroid, and she'll be okay. And we can keep working and working and working. That's the beauty. If any practitioners are viewing this, this is the beauty of botanicals. You can use them as antispasmatics, as homeostatics, or hemostatics. You can use them as anything you want. The range that they have is so incredible. It's amazing. But on the Cushing's, you're going to go right into the kidneys. You're going to detoxify that lymph system. You're going to get on the raw foods. You could use upper circulation, and I would be careful about overstimulating glandular function if there's any hypertendencies. Hypotendencies, you can use glandulars. Hypertendencies, I generally don't touch the tissue, like hyperthyroidism. I generally don't give anybody with hyperthyroid anything for the thyroid. The thyroid is already kicking on down the line. Hyper cases are so much easier to find a remedy for than hypo. Because hyper is generally a simple detoxification, get that lymph moving out of the head, get out of the adrenals. But hypo means, you know what, I just, what's my job? You wanted cortisol, what? Cortisol, oh, you wanted some, you know, that's much more difficult than, yeah, I'm really working, I'm really going, you know, settle down. Oh, okay. So a lot of difference between those two issues. Hit the raw, hit the fruits. You can use brain and nerve just to strengthen the nervous system if there's a neurospasticity to this as well, being that it affects the medulla or the part of the adrenal glands that produces neurotransmitters. The medulla is the inner core of everything, and the cortex is the outer core of everything. So each area of a gland produces different substances depending whether it's the inner core of the medulla or the cortex, like the adrenals. So if you need more help with that, detoxify, but you're going to use your kidneys. I'd use 2 kidney herbs. I would use 2 lymphatic herbs. I get after those bowels. I'd use upper circulation if you want. But when you start moving your lymph system, it'll eventually start moving head to toe. If you're more in a hypo state, then by all means get on the endocrine gland formula, get on the adrenal formula, or use the glandulars for these things. And it'll strengthen these tissues up and pull you out of a hypo state. Hyper, just detoxify. Get deeper into the body. If you're not digging deep enough, you're not probably doing all fruit. And if you are, it just takes a while. You can do some fasting there.